We are joined now by Carol Markowitz, whose Dallas Cowboys have yet to make a move at all in free agency, likely driving her 8-year-old son into spasms of anger that are well reflected across the entire country as Dallas Cowboy fans react the same way. Not that I'm pointing out the Dallas Cowboys never win anything and haven't for 25 years, but she joins us now, Carol Markowitz.
Why do you hate America's team so much?
I don't really hate the Dallas Cowboys. I just enjoy the collapse of Dallas Cowboy fan hopes every year. It's really kind of like Halloween. It's a great fall winter tradition as Cowboy fans.
You're a Titans fan.
I know. Well, trust me. I have to take joy in other misery because my own misery is so significant.
Clearly. Yeah.
Carol, do you fill out a bracket, by the way, with the NCAA tournament going on? Have you ever filled one out?
I didn't. No, I haven't. Should I?
So you and Buck are in cahoots here. Do your kids fill one out?
Wait, these people are called New Yorkers, Clay. I'm telling you, nobody in New York City fills out these brackets. It's just not a thing.
Is this college?
By the way,
basketball?
this just happened. Buck, I have Buck on FaceTime. Did you even see what just happened when you made those hand signals? Like, do those hand signals again, like that you just did.
I don't know. It made confetti come out of
the
FaceTime.
You made confetti come out. I've heard this is happening on all sorts of serious meetings now when people are doing – have you heard about this?
Funny.
Like, people are talking about laying off people and everything else, and they do hand gestures,
I still
and suddenly
think
there's
my favorite – I know we're getting way off track, and Carol, we're about to go to serious stuff, but my favorite clip, I think, of the entire pandemic was when they were doing Zoom courtroom stuff. And the guy with the cat face in the South somewhere was like, I don't know how to change it. He's got a cat face. I couldn't stop.
That was pretty
amazing.
Back
to that,
all right.
Honestly.
I mean, honestly, with some of the ways that our court proceedings are going, making everybody argue in cat face might make them make more sense.
Yeah.
All right, let's go, Carol. We've talked with you a ton about Jewish voters and what might happen in this 2024 election. And it seems quite clear that there is a panic in some ways in the Democrat Party. Schumer comes out and basically says Netanyahu has to go. This is unacceptable, the choices that he's making, which seems clearly based on the collapse in support among Arab voters. But then you also have Jewish voters that are leaving. How big of a story do you think this is? And what do you think about Trump deciding to wade in and say, oh, I don't know how any Jewish person could vote Democrat at this point. Is he helping, hurting? How do you assess this right now?
The thing is, I don't think he's helping, but I don't think he's wrong. It's something I would say. I don't know how any Jewish person would vote Democrat right now, but I think for him, obviously, he's a brash guy. He says what's on his mind. You're not going to temper Donald Trump, and maybe it's best not to try. But it's the reaction to him that I think is a problem. And I don't think he's wrong. I just think that the way he says it obviously turns people off. But look, he got Chuck Schumer to stammer on Twitter and say, no, Jews don't leave us, basically. And that, I appreciate that. So he definitely got some reaction that he was looking for. I do see a shift from Jews. Not all Jews are on the left. Some are just moderates or maybe, liberals who are kind of curious about the other side. I see this in my own groups. I had a piece on Israel at Fox News yesterday, and I see it being shared and people saying like, oh, don't share Fox News. And then a lot of other people saying, I'll share what I want. I'll read what I want. I agree with this and I'm going to share it. Maybe I'm not a regular Fox reader, but I will be now.
Carol, I wanted to actually play this Trump comment for you so you can respond to it. Here he is. This is cut 4, where he is, he's calling out anyone who is Jewish and votes Democrat. Play it.
I actually think they hate Israel. I don't think they hate – I think they hate Israel. And the Democrat Party hates Israel. When you see those Palestinian marches, even I'm amazed at how many people are in those marches. And guys like Schumer see that. And to him, it's votes. I think it's votes more than anything else because he was always pro-Israel. He's very anti-Israel. Now, any Jewish person that votes for Democrats hates their religion. They hate everything about Israel, and they should be ashamed of themselves.
Carol, look, he's being very Trump there, but I think that that's also resonating with people because there's some truth to a lot of what he says.
I fully agree. And look, again, Chuck Schumer said Trump is making highly partisan and hateful rants. Chuck Schumer called to overthrow the democratically elected leader of Israel. Like, Chuck Schumer's now concerned about partisanship, and he's concerned about hurting the Israeli-U.S. relationship. Like, spare me. So I like that Trump always gets a reaction, but he also does this thing where he exposes Democrats for what they actually are. And I think that that's what's happening here. He exposed Chuck Schumer as somebody who doesn't ultimately care about Israel. Yeah, he was always pro-Israel, but now he knows that Biden needs the Muslim vote in places like Michigan, where I happen to be right now. And I see it where they're worried about it. And this is the kind of thing that they're doing, and Trump's calling them out on it.
Carol, you moved to Florida. Buck moved to Florida, both from New York City.
Yeah.
New York Times.
I think I might have moved to Florida because of Carol, because of her New York Post columns.
But you've written for the New York Post for a long time, Carol. But when you see the New York Times finally come out and say, so about the school closures, yeah, it turns out it didn't help anything with COVID, and we enacted generational learning loss for kids, overwhelmingly among, by the way, public school kids and the poorest kids. Right. 4 years later, does that come as any validation, or are you, like Buck and myself, just still furious that there really hasn't been any reckoning and no consequences for all these disastrous decisions?
Right. Well, it's nice that the New York Times has faced a reality that we knew in spring of 2020. By spring of 2020, it was clear that if kids did not go back to school, this would cause major problems. And the New York Times has taken no responsibility for the fact that they were the ones who pushed school closures. They had reporters on the beat that would cover these teachers having coffins at their marches and really portray school openings as a radical thing that this crazy governor in Florida was pushing. And they have not apologized for any of it. Their COVID reporter, Apoorva, I forgot her last name, but she's one of the worst reporters ever. Her corrections were longer than her articles. It was unbelievable. And there were so many things that we knew at the time. And I hate the fact that they're like, oh, well, now we know. We knew then. We knew all of it then. And I knew I had a kindergartner at the time. I knew that he was struggling. I knew that I could get him a tutor. I can get him all the help we need. We moved to Florida. I could do all of that for him. But I grew up very poor, and I knew that there were people from my old neighborhood who could not do anything close to that for the kids. And it killed me that these people on the left had spent the summer of 2020 marching for equity and then did not say one word for these poor kids who couldn't go to school. Instead, they took their kids and put them in private schools, which of course were open because that makes a lot of sense. Private schools are safe from COVID while public schools are not. And they didn't say a word for these poor kids. There was no equity mentioned at all. And I would say that that's really what pushed me out of New York. I couldn't live.
Buck and I, we've talked about this too. And I bet you would agree with this too, Carol. And you're talking like March, April, even into May. Like right. I give people grace for poor decisions that they made because it was still early, even though the data was out there that kids were not in danger. Right. But if your kid, and my kids were in school, and I thank heavens that we live where we do, and they, by the way, they all went to public school. But by August of 2020, if your school was not back open, you failed the American public, and everybody who didn't fight for that, I'm still furious about.
Me too, and I don't know if I'll ever get over it. I really don't, because nobody has been held accountable. Nobody has apologized. You know, I was looking up yesterday after the New York Times story hit about all the people who called me Dr. Markowitz to be sarcastic as if I knew more than the health practitioners. There was a New York City councilman, this terrible Democrat in Bay Ridge, who called me Dr. Markowitz because I dared to want schools to open. And now they all pretend that they wanted it all along also. Randi Weingarten now portrays herself as somebody who pushed for schools to open when she literally rewrote CDC policy under the Biden administration to keep schools closed. It just kills me. I'll never get over it. These kids will never get over it. It's a terrible thing that was done, and people should be held accountable.
Carol, what can you tell us about what people can expect on the Carol Markowitz podcast for this week, which is in the Clay and Buck Network, and I hope everyone subscribes?
Well, I had my favorite New York City councilman, Joe Borelli, who I'm working very hard to make a Floridian as well, on yesterday. And then on Thursday, I have Tim Carney talking about his new book, Family Unfriendly, about how American policies lead to people not having kids. Interesting stuff. And then on Monday, I've got Comfortably Smug, the internet legend himself.
Oh, that's a great lineup of shows. Very well done. Well, go check out the Carol Markowitz show, everybody. But it's not on the radio waves. It's on the podcast side of things. So you got to subscribe to the Clay Travis and Buck Sexton show podcast. The Carol Markowitz Show will be in there. Carol, always a pleasure.
Thank you, guys. Thanks so much.
You know, an unborn child's heartbeat is their only way of communicating before they're born. And to anyone who hears it via ultrasound, there's an instant connection to that unmistakable sound. That's why there's an ultrasound machine at every preborn clinic nationwide. Your donated dollars to Preborn purchase that equipment, which has helped more than 280,000 babies realize life and the chance for their full potential. Preborn places their clinics in communities where abortion rates are highest to offer pregnant women an alternative for their child to choose life over all else. They help with the ultrasound experiences, of course, but also with maternity clothing, diapers, and other needed supplies for their baby. All of that happens by your donations. The work at each preborn clinic is dependent on your generosity and mine. That's right, the pro-life community. You and me together, we can do what is necessary here to save lives in a big way. And how big can it be? Well, there's this leadership gift. Now, I know times are tough right now, and for a lot of people, this is going to sound like a big number because it is a big number. It's a lot of money. But we have people listening right now. One of you listening right now, maybe a few of you listening right now, have $5,000 that you know will save hundreds of lives. You could sponsor Preborn's entire network for 24 hours with a single $5,000 donation, which, let me make sure you know, is 100% tax deductible. So you will get 100% tax deduction if you want for that donation of $5,000. And you could help rescue 200 babies' lives with it. Maybe there's one, maybe there's five, a handful of you. You can do that right now. But if you can only donate $50, that's great too. That helps. Every little bit helps. Dial pound 250, say the keyword baby. That's pound 250 and say baby. Or if you want to just donate online at the website, go to preborn.com/buck. That's preborn.com/BUCK. Preborn has a 100% charity rating, so you can give with confidence. Sponsored by Preborn.